Vinit Bolinjkar joins us on the show as well. Vinit, the entire talk of the town has now tilted towards, NBFC versus banks, and the kind of hawkeye that RBI has at this point of time on NBFCs. Maybe the banks are better placed, or I don't know, the banks are maybe next in the order. What's your view on it, banks versus NBFCs?
So I believe that, first the PSUs took the drubbing for almost a decade. Then, we had HDFC Bank going through a kind of a course correction. There had some issues. Then we had the NBFCs taking a drubbing. And in this entire mala, I think that the PSU banks are well placed to monetize this. And we will see more flows come in because, they're absolutely geared with what the government wants is that they want the regulated entities to follow due procedure. And that is what the PSU banks are doing ever since they're on the recovery front. So I believe that we will see less, regulatory disciplinary moves against the PSU banks, and hence they seem to be best placed to benefit from this.
Okay, that's the take coming in right now. While the Sensex has managed to scale up higher and it's now crossed that 74,000 mark. Tata Chemicals, Pidilite, Kotak Bank, OFSS, these are your big performers from within the liquid universe. And of course, within the Nifty, it's really the magic of private banks, which is holding it up. Axis higher by about 2%. You've got ICICI Bank scaling higher by about 1%. HDFC Bank as well, 0.5% or so higher. Can't say the same about PSBs though today. SBI is at best just very, very tempered. Reliance as well pretty quiet as we speak right now. So maybe now it's picked up a little bit in the green as we speak, just marginally so actually. Not such the best day for an Ultratech, for an ONGC, Tata Steel, Maruti, even Tata Motors is a little bit soft in trade. And then Adani Enterprises is the one which is down about a good 2.5% as we speak right now. But Vinit, would you have any buy ideas in this market, or would you say keep the powder dry, sit on the cash for when there is any volatility that kicks in, one would find opportunities?
So while we do have buy ideas, I still think that, there's a lot of poison that is brewing in the system which needs to be curtailed. And that is, we are going to see a lot of SME stocks come under pressure. That is going to have a bearing on the small and mid caps. And as you know, I always say March end is the time to buy. So around March 20th to March 30th is when you will get some very, very juicy valuations on all your stock picks. And that is when you should keep the powder dry for.
The powder dry and wait for those dips and buying opportunities. But in the meantime, what are the FIs and the large institutions looking at buying? That's something our colleague Sharad will tell us in this dealing room link. Hi, Sharad.
The dealer chatter room is coming for dollar industries, and over here the dealers are stating that long only fund buying has been seen for the last two trading session, and today also an important chunk was bought by a long only fund. Now importantly, roughly 7 lakh shares have been acquired, which translates into roughly 1% stake in the company, and importantly the volumes have also picked up almost 3 times its 20-day average. Now interestingly, we did check the shareholding pattern, and this company is grossly under-owned when it comes to the FI as well as mutual funds, where the combined stake is less than 1%. So this might be a significant move as a long-only fund is said to have entered the company. Apart from this, also importantly, ace investor Ajay Upadhyay has almost 1.06% stake in the company, and we did do a research in the Q3 numbers, and the company stood out amongst its peers as well. And also a key re-rating trigger as per analysts is that there is a changes happening in the distribution system as well as the inventory management under the project Lakshya. So that's why dollar industries is in focus as institutional interest is gaining interest on the stock.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. In the meantime, let me take it across to Ansh and find out what are some of the volume buzzers in trade.
Right, so L&T Finance Holding will be the first stock in focus here because the stock has faced significant downward pressure today. If you can see the chart, stock gave a decisive breakdown from its channel pattern, registering its biggest single session decline in over 2 years. The stock even slipped below its 50 DMA along with heavy volume of over 7 times its 10 session average trading volume. Apart from this, Mahanagar Gas will also be in focus as the stock has given a breakdown from its horizontal support trend line, registering its biggest single session decline in in almost 4 years. There was a strong participation in the fall with the volume of over 20 times its 10 session average trading volume. The stock even slipped below its 20 DMA, hitting a 1-month low level. Lastly, let's focus on some nifty bank stock as well, because today is the weekly option expiry. So we have chosen Kotak Bank in this list. If you can see the chart, stock has given a breakout from its cup and handle chart pattern, and it has also surpassed above its 20 DMA. Here as well, the move was supported with good volume of around 1.4 times its 10 session average trading volume. So those were the breakout stocks based on price volume action.
Thanks, Ansh, for putting those interesting charts up for us. So L&T Finance, Kotak, some of these names are definitely in focus, and dollar industries that my colleague Sharad was pointing out. Let's pull up the intraday chart of that one. That stock is also sitting at a gain of around 6%. So clearly that long only fund buying is aiding the sentiment on that one. But just coming back to you, Vinit, the kind of move that we're seeing on Tata Chemicals for the last couple of days, do you think this is purely on account of that entire build up towards the Tata Sons IPO, or there's something fundamental at play here as well, their own chemical business improving?
Yeah, so it's a combination of all these things. The underlying business is very strong, strong cash flow generating, large assets, uh, global business, and you also have the value unlocking coming in from the uh, Tata Sons placement. And the third thing is also the some noises that they keep on making on the battery side. That plays very positively for the company. And I think it is at an inflection point, and from here the stock can start moving up quite aggressive.
To what levels? Any specific levels in mind that you have in it for us?
So I think a good 15 to 20% upside in the short run seems to be quite likely.
Go with that view, 10 to 15% on Tata Chemicals in the short run itself. Naresh, the question is for you on Tata Chemicals.
So Tata Chemicals in the near term has given a breakout. It was a recommendation 2 days back. The volumes are the case which makes it very interesting. The last 2 days volumes are almost 10x the general volume. So in that case, it could surprise on the upside. Any dip should be a buying opportunity, but doubt it would go back to the levels where you want a good entry point.
Okay, in the meantime, the power of diversification in technology, the role of private sector players in the space ecosystem, what's going to be the next, a leg up for Indian startups? Those are some of the questions that IT Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar and the ISRO Chairman S. Somnath took up. And let's hear out a slice of that chat.
Today, looking forward, performance is going to come from semiconductor in terms of process, it is going to come from semiconductor design, it is going to come from system design, optimization, and like a reset and redrawing, and also for software. So that whole performance stack and the application stack has been almost reinvented. So if you look at the next wave of startups in this context, that's why I wanted to set the context. We are going to now see, of course, ITS will continue. We will continue to be the back office of the world. Of course, our presence on the consumer internet will continue. But in these new areas where CPUs are being replaced with GPUs and GPUs are being replaced with AI-specific compute, and we are increasingly cloudifying the whole ecosystem, digital ecosystem, you will see that the opportunities are in system design, whether it's for space, whether it's for compute, whether it's for automotive, it is for device design, it is for app platforms that use AI to basically do more with less. So AI, semiconductors, electronics, high performance compute, cyber security, all of these areas represent huge opportunity where the world today is almost at the same starting line.
We believed now that the space sector is not something that you can contain within an organization structure called ISRO, government alone, but it has to have an expansion to the non-governmental actors and private. This is strongly believed by our government. And this belief made us to declare the space sector open in 2018. The Prime Minister did that. And subsequent to that, the announcement came that the space sector reforms started. See, you should all realize that we in ISRO, we were actually struggling we were not having a method by which to engage with the private company. You must understand that we were said to be very secretive, very elite. You don't disclose anything. You contain all the new technology. Don't even tell anybody. Don't engage with private people. This is going to be a threat for the nation. All these narratives came, and we have to understand that this has to change in the mindset of the people. We must say that the whole of the work done by private entrepreneurs in this country is also national. I think this change of concept has to happen. And it is also true in case of technologies which are critical, like defense and space. They are equally should be accessible to private. And this is a policy shift that happened within the government, within the belief system of the political ambience. And that has been created by our Prime Minister.
Okay, so that's the latest commentary coming in, but at the bottom of your screen there is what GM Financials is saying, and maybe part of the recovery can be attributed to that. They're talking about how the impact of whatever has happened in terms of the business is not material for the financials. So that's one stock that you should have on your radar, and no material divergences were found and no governance issue is there whatsoever. So that's the latest commentary coming in. But the other stock I wanted to talk about was Max Healthcare. That stock is up around 5%. My colleague Anurag will be joining us shortly to talk to us about what's the latest, because of course this flip-flop was happening, whether those CGHS prices will be regulated and put across the board all private companies. But now we understand that the hospitals have come together and made a representation on the same. Anurag, tell us what you're picking up on this story.
Association of Healthcare Providers, a body of small and mid-sized private hospitals, also moving to Supreme Court in the case where Supreme Court has asked central government to finalize standard rates of for hospital treatment. So the Hospital Association today only, as per our sources, are moving to SC, and they will also become they are willing to become party in this case to put forth their points. Because as per Hospital Association, the CGHS rate, if government if center agrees to apply CGHS rate, it will not be feasible, because so hospitals think that there is no scientific data for the CGHS rate, and CGHS rates are applicable to only 500 to 600 hospitals, and across the country there are more than 50,000 hospitals. So there will be no rationale to implement CGHS rate. On the meanwhile, there is hospitals think that they can agree on the rates related to the insurance companies. There are a certain agreement between hospitals and insurance company. So these type of standard rates can be applied, so they can put forth in their plea. On the other side, as per our sources, insurance companies through General Insurance Council will also become party in this case, because Supreme Court has asked central government Union Health Secretary to come up with a standard rate for medical treatment procedure across the states in 6 weeks. So 6 weeks times has been given by the Supreme Court, and if government doesn't come up with a standard rate, Supreme Court may think to implement CGHS rate. So after this order, we have seen a lot of pressure on hospital stocks, and hospitals are also worried. So now going ahead, we'll see that Hospital Association are also willing to become party in this case. Insurers will also become party in this case, and insurers are also agreed to give their own data, because insurance companies have agreement with more than 40,000 hospitals for their cashless treatment. So for cashless treatment, hospitals and insurance companies come up with an agreement to give the cashless treatment. So insurers are ready to share that data also with the government. It is expected that Union Health Secretary is also meeting all state health secretary to go ahead in this issue, where Supreme Court has asked government to come up with a standard treatment rates in hospitals.
Right, sure, Anurag, we'll leave it at that. Let's just bring up some of these healthcare names, the hospital stocks in particular. They've actually seen a bit of a rebound come in. Vinit, I don't know if you've been tracking this entire story, still pretty much work in progress. But does it seem like much of the damage could be behind the hospital names, the stocks that is? Vinit, I think you're on mute.
I would want to be still wary on where they're going, because I think the valuations are high, and would like to, see how this thing pans out before giving any kind of commentary on this. it still remains to be a watchful scenario because what kind of regulations and limitations that come from on the pricing front can severely impact the growth.
Okay, so that's a take coming in, of course, on the hospital sector. We'll try and reconnect that line with you because it seems to be a bit patchy. But Pidilite is, of course, one stock that I want to discuss further. What's your take, Kunal, on Pidilite scaling fresh highs?
So yeah, I think it's coming out of a consolidation. The last 2 weeks, the stock was into a range, 27, 75, 80 as the upper end of the range, and closer to 2,650, 660 as the lower end of the range for Pidilite. So it's a strong price volume breakout. In fact, the volumes today are almost at a 1.5 odd month high for Pidilite on the cash side. So that itself is another positive sign. We could be now looking at this 300 to 400 point consolidation being replicated on the upside for the stock, which means from current levels of 2,800, we should now be looking at 3,000 to 3,100 as a target for the stock.
Right. Other than Pidilite, of course, there's Bajaj Auto also, which has sprung up. It's, by the way, now the top nifty mover. It's a solid 3.5% of a move that you're seeing on the stock price. Of course, there were comments from Mr. Bajaj himself saying that perhaps 12,000 is the fair value for Bajaj Auto, and clearly the stock in a hurry to perhaps lap on to that level. But Vinit, what is it that you're making of the two-wheeler space, as intense the competition now may be, and of course from the upcoming EV IPOs too?
So quite bullish on this space, and we like TVS Suzuki. We think they've got the best portfolio, which is positioned to take on the EV juggernaut as well as the growth of the two-wheeler space. They're both in scooters as well as in motorcycles, and we think they have a very, very healthy product portfolio, a good overseas business also, and that puts it in a very sweet spot.
So TVS Motors in a sweet spot given the kind of portfolio they have, but the IT stocks seem to be breaking out a bit as well, Naresh. A HCL Tech, a TCS, Infosys, if I have it right, they are sitting at the highest point of the trading session. Any IT bets, Naresh?
So I would expect some bit of a bounce back in names like LTI Mindtree, which have been in a drift lower. So that's a stock which has corrected quite a lot over the last few weeks. So that's a stock which can bounce from 5100, 5150 towards 5400, 5500 levels. So that's one. And on dips, TCS has been a relative outperformer. So that would be one more stock to look out for dips. But at current levels, LTI Mindtree looks interesting.
Okay, so LTI Mindtree from the entire IT space is something that you like. Vinit, what about the private banking names today? For instance, you have Kotak, ICICI, Axis, all doing quite well. But how confident are you about these moves that we are seeing in the private banks? Because it's been one step forward, two step back for them. They have been pretty much sideways. How do you see the year panning out for some of these private banking names?
If you see, ICICI Bank was definitely the leader among the private sector banks. That broke out around the 1,000 odd levels and it has started moving up. So I think the worries around the private sector banks is over discounted. And I think that, there's a good surprise waiting in the short run with a nice move happening over the next a quarter or two as they play catch up with the PSU banks, since they've been very laggards in the run of the bank stocks.
Okay, that's some of the private banking names springing up quite a fair bit in trade right now. In the meantime, of course, Bharti is the one also which is scaling up quite smartly. In fact, it's on its way to actually, hit that 1,200 rupee per share mark. A solid 2% of a move is what you're seeing on that stock. We were just flagging off the strength in Bajaj Auto, but look what's happening on an M&M. Titan has sprung up nearly about 2%. In fact, all the Tata Group names, starting off with Tata Chem, Tata Consumer as well looking good. TCS2 has actually sprung up about 1.5% right now as we speak. Naresh, just wanted your sense on the charts of both Bharti as well as M&M.
So Bharti looks very interesting. The stock has given a breakout a day back out of a triangle and a flag formation above 1150. And now is in touching distance of hitting a new all-time high, which is closer to 1,200. And the stock has this tendency to go through an uptick, then a consolidation. The last few times, whenever it broke out, it made another 8 to 10% move. So still looks positive for a target price of 1250 to 1300 in the short term.
Point taken. For now, we are sitting at fresh record highs. So we are closing in on style because 22,484 is where the index is. And of course, the bulk of the rally has happened in the last 2 hours, 1.5 hours or so. Bank Nifty actually has cooled off. It's the rest of the markets that has managed to pick up pace because the private banking names are off the highest point of the trading session. But as we were pointing out, it's the likes of Bajaj Auto, Bharti Airtel, Sun Pharma, which have actually managed to participate. And that's the reason we are seeing that rally. And also, of course, from the broader markets as well, there are a lot of names which are actually perking up in the last few minutes. Alok Industries, Zensar Tech, Anatco Pharma. Some of these names as well are doing quite all right. But Vinit, if I had to ask you, one high conviction idea that you have at this point of time, or one high conviction theme, whether it's urban consumption, whether it's anything else as well, which is that one theme or stock that comes to mind?
I think Adani Enterprises as a stock looks very, very good. It's been consolidating very strongly. I know we are expecting a lot of good news to flow through. The copper plant is going to be starting this month. The wafer plant is active in the subsidiary Anil. And the airport will obviously get commissioned within the next 12 months. So I think there's a lot of positive traction news coming through. They've just delivered 900 Hermes planes. So I think they're in a very, very strong sweet spot. All aspects of the business doing really well. And I think they're slated for another 20% run.
Okay, so Adani Enterprises is clearly that high conviction buy, but what are the BTSC trades from our chartists then? Kunal, what's the buy today, sell tomorrow idea?
So I'll go with Infosys as the first stock to suggest as a buy. Now, interestingly, the stock has formed a bullish hammer pattern on the daily charts. So that could be a very strong indication that a near-term bottom could be in place for the stock. 1700 as a target. Stop loss could be kept at 1550. And PNB is the other stock from the PSU lot, which has been looking very attractive. Earlier, I had flagged targets closer to 134 for the stock. So the stop loss remains the same at 124. Would look out for targets on the higher side, closer to 140.
Okay, Naresh, what about your BTST idea?
So first would be a buy on Bharti Airtel with a revised stop loss at 1180 and a target price of 1220. The second would be a buy on Tata Communications, showing a lot of relative strength for the last 3 sessions at all-time highs now. Stop loss at 1970, target price of 2008.
Okay, on that note, gentlemen, we'll let you go, Vinit as well as Naresh and Kunal. Thanks so much for making time and speaking with us today.